Your kids, they're going to love you regardless. They'll seek your approval and attention no matter your performance. They'll seek you out when they're scared, unsure, curious, or just in need of a cuddle. So let's face it, to them, you're already enough. They don't need a super dad. It's warmth, affection, and love that they crave. Anything more? Well, that's just stepping up and going above and beyond. And that's you wanting to give them more. So it's time to stop chasing perfect. Welcome back. This is Answer Me This, part of the Fatherhood in Focus podcast. I'm Aidan, dad, host, and founder of the Modern Fatherhood Club. Every week, I'm going to ask you one uncomfortable question, not to shame you, but to sharpen you. This is about legacy, impact, and the man that your kids actually see when you walk into the room. Because you and I both know the world is happy for you to just cope. We're here to help you choose how you show up, how you lead, and how you love. Before we dive in, if you haven't already, subscribe to the podcast, and if you're watching on YouTube, hit subscribe there too. And hey, grab some of our free fatherhood resources at themodernfatherhoodclub.com. They're built to support you from those early, messy days right through to the years when they're screaming at you from across the room. All right, take a breath. This week's question is going to test you. Let's get into it. Let's be frank. The minimal performance level for a dad is pretty low. In fact, you being in the same room, even just sitting across from them at the table is going to get you a cuddle. You could show up and deliver the minimum and they'd still chase your approval, still want to be in your company, still seek out that warm embrace and attention when they need it. And this is the challenge that we face in society. Show up, exceed expectations and deliver day after day, or sit back, put little effort in and still be rewarded with that cuddle before bedtime. Be outstanding or be average, chase more or just be. The reward, when they're small, well, it's still the same. But as they get older, does the gap widen? Do they start to see you for all your flaws? Do they drift, not just away from you, but from their potential too? Now, chasing perfection creates unnecessary pressure on both you and your relationship. Because what they want is super simple. And that's why showing up real, unedited, imperfect is likely to bring you closer together. But get complacent, show little attention or make little time to connect, then a gap will begin to show. Okay, so let's give this some context. This week, I'm going to be a little controversial. If I gave you everything you needed to survive and expected nothing in return, who would your children see? Would they see the dad who is trying, not chasing perfection, but he is going above and beyond? Or would they see a dad switched off, lifeless, no passion, no enthusiasm, no want for more? And if you were the dad trying to create something more for his family, but could see others receiving the same reward for contributing little to nothing, would you be bitter, frustrated, angry, and disillusioned with the world outside? And if you looked at society as a whole, if we had more dads switched off, disengaged, and lacking accountability, well, would our children suffer? More importantly, would we see a dilution in our children's appetite for learning, for creativity, for growth? Are we on the edge of losing a generation? The more lifeless, passionless, switched off dads, the greater risk our children face of losing a bright future. The leaders our children need aren't forged by indifference. They're not forged where there's nothing to lead or drive toward. They're created by having something to live for and fight for, something to contribute and something to work toward without being penalised. Our children don't need to see shortcuts. They need accountable, responsible, thoughtful leaders who go beyond the basic needs of their families. Because the more lifeless you become, the more disillusioned you're allowed to become. When our children, they see something harmful, a loss of spark, a loss of value, a loss of identity and purpose, I'm afraid in 2026, it feels like we're okay with average, with failure, with the lack of accountability. We reward the lowest level of performance and choose to punish those trying to create something for themselves and for their children. We're committed to allowing excuses to see us through. But what is that really teaching them? Try hard and you're going to be rewarded, but try too hard, you're going to be penalised. Or don't try. Surf through life and ultimately you'll get a similar outcome as the boy or girl who grinded and did their best. As parents, as dads, we need to set an example. We can meet their needs because those needs are simple. But if we're committed to this role, what do they really need to see? Not just at home, but outside the home too. What do they need to hear? Do they need to see that effort equals reward, or laziness equals equal level of reward? This isn't about pushing you to be perfect. This is about waking up and seeing what's going on around you. This is about letting your kids see what it takes and protecting them from the lack of effort expended elsewhere. This is about promoting your values, beliefs, and what matters, while still giving them exactly what they need. You see, I will not let my children's future suffer at the expense of the world outside, the decisions made and pure incompetence of the decision makers that are shaping a different world for those I love the most. My role, and your role too, is to prove to them that they're capable of whatever it is they're setting their mind to, regardless of the noise surrounding them every day. And we've got to do this, all without letting them chase your affection and your acceptance. Now, I'm going to share with you a couple of stories that shows just where I think we're heading. Last week, Maxie and I were waiting for H to get his haircut. Local barbers, it's busy, lots of coming and going, and we're sat next to this lad, early 30s maybe, and his little boy, probably 3, maybe 4. And this little lad was impeccably behaved, legs crossed, just waiting patiently. Dad, well, he was sat next to him, and in the 45 minutes we were sat there, he said nothing to him. He even popped out for a cigarette a couple of times. Still, the little lad didn't move. He sipped on his drink and said nothing. Dad scrolled, sent some texts, but nothing between them, no warmth. And the little lad, he seemed happy enough. The only interaction between them in that whole 45 minutes was, as they picked up to leave, the little lad reached out his hand. Now, this isn't designed to judge. I don't know the personal relationship between the boy and that man. But to share nothing, not even a word, in that 45 minutes, well, it says something. Is this the sort of disconnect we're building quietly under the surface? Where we're allowing for things to break down in plain sight, allowing for a lost generation of brightness to disappear? Maybe. But I'd be interested to know what you think. This isn't the first time I've seen this type of indifference between parent and child. It appears to be a growing issue, where the parents are too distracted, too engaged, and too focused on themselves and the world around them. The iPad or phone has now become, for many, a parenting tool of choice. But is this approach being encouraged? If we're not expected to work for something and can still get it, then what lesson is that teaching those we love? Now, look, we escaped to Porto for a city break last week. We packed the boys' suitcases, we woke them up early and surprised them with a short break. an adventure, something we'd not done for a while. But this was our reward for their hard work and our hard work too. Now I accept I'm in a position to do this, but I work for it, I save for it, and when the opportunity to build memories presents itself, well, I'm going to take it. Not to show off, but to show my boys that there's more to life, something to aspire for and be rewarded by. But in reality, if you're in a position to do it, you've got to do it. This is the evidence of your effort, labour, and it shows your children what can be done. But it also creates space to build memories. Now we walked them through the streets of Porto, up and down hills, explored, and sat and watched the world go by. We talked, when we laughed harder than we've laughed in ages. And the boys, well, they ate plenty of octopus. As I said, in today's world, we need to set an example. We need to build a future, and we need them to see what can be done. The hard work equals reward and opportunity, not low effort equals big reward. But what they really need to see is this, that we earned it. By choosing ownership, taking accountability, stepping up and fulfilling our potential. Not waiting to be granted more, but taking steps to find out what we're capable of delivering. Because what we're seeking to teach here is that value and contribution is worth reward. A lack of value, a lack of accountability, and taking steps to do everything in your power not to contribute, well, that's failing them. Failing to set an example, failing to lead with love, presence, and control. Control over the things that matter, stepping away from the things that add no value. And I think we have two options as dads. Survive without accountability, survive and shape their future. The question is, which one today is encouraged more? Which is rewarded more? Which will lead through the hard times and build a strong connection with family and responsibility and build lasting relationships? Which does the outside world really want for you? In my humble opinion, our ability to be real, present, engaged, and accountable will teach our children more than a passive, passionless approach. Our objective is to build something for them, not to make their lives easier, but to create opportunity. And you can't do that if you're unwilling to try, unwilling to grow, willing to be dictated to. Yes, some of this is an education society issue, but if we take a long hard look at the world today and the ever-growing divide between rich and poor, who are we failing more? And are we contributing to that growing divide and failure because we're prepared to reward poor behaviours, a lack of accountability, and punish those trying to build something for their future? As parents, regardless of our social standing, we are duty bound to give our children our best. The question is, are we encouraging people to give their best? I'm not talking about setting the world alight and grinding every hour of every day. I'm talking about creating opportunities to grow before rewarding a lack of commitment and value. Realness, authenticity, hard work, and recognizing what our children really need, well, that creates legacy. So do you want them to inherit your best or your worst? And if it's the latter, well, we're probably on a different page. Because we can't teach courage if we're not prepared to grow and take risk. It doesn't matter what that growth is, but being prepared to show them the best of you, whatever that looks like, well, that's the legacy I'm desperate to build for my boys. I will fail. I will lose. I will make mistakes. I will lack confidence. But I will try. Because I understand what they need. And it's connection, autonomy, vision, acceptance that life is tough, and a willingness to give it a go without giving in and taking the easy path. All I ask of myself is that I try. Because if I don't, what will the future hold for them? And what role models will they then learn from if I'm not prepared to show up and give more than what they need? I'm here because I lost sight of what was important, and it almost cost me everything. But that challenging time, it taught me about duty. It taught me to live aligned to the things that matter and to never overlook the small stuff and the impact I can have on their world. I've made mistakes, I've missed moments, but I'm not going to let them define me because I'm fighting for a future that serves my kids and my wife. It doesn't have to look good on paper. It's just one that serves us as a unit. This podcast is what happens when a dad gets real about where he's falling short and how he's learning to rise anyway. Because your kids don't need a dad who's got it all figured out. They need a dad who's willing to look in the mirror and keep becoming. This isn't for the man who's pretending. This is for the man who's ready. As always, write it down. Dive into the detail. Create something so powerful that you cannot wake up and not move toward it. Remember, you're working to create the vision of dad they need to see. Because if you get it right, you silence the noise and prioritize what's important. They'll live how you lived, love how you loved, listen how you listened, prioritize how you did, and show up in the lives of those they love just like you. This is the role model. This is the role of today's modern dad. Stability, strength, passion, perseverance, pride, love. All right, that's today's question. You've just spent a few minutes doing what most dads avoid. Slowing down, being honest, and looking at how you're really showing up. And my friend, that matters. It matters more than you know. Remember, your kids, they don't need a perfect man. Just an honest one. A dad who is willing to reflect, reset, and lead from the front, even when he's tired, under pressure, or just coping more than he'd like to admit. If this episode landed for you, subscribe to the podcast and hit subscribe on YouTube so you don't miss any of our future episodes. And if you haven't yet, join us at themodernfatherhoodclub.com. There you're going to find free resources and reflection questions, the ultimate new dad toolkit, the new dad recharge course for those of you ready to realign your energy and priorities, and details of all our antenatal episodes that are available on the Fatherhood in Focus podcast as a new series and completely free. Each one of those episodes has been designed to take you through the early stages of pregnancy right up to the moment when baby arrives. If you haven't listened to it already, please access it. It's free. It's there to help you navigate pregnancy and those early weeks after baby arrives. Thank you for listening, for reflecting, and for doing the work. This is the Modern Fatherhood Club. This is Answer Me This, part of the Fatherhood in Focus podcast. Remember, lead from the front. Never underestimate the power you have over who they become. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode.